You added the berries, the oatmeal, the lentils, the sauerkraut. By Wednesday, your stomach felt like a balloon. By Thursday, you gave up. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a familiar thought, maybe this just isn't how my body works. That thought is the moment most people quit. Not the bloating, the conclusion they draw from it. This isn't a willpower story, it's a biology story. When you suddenly flood a gut that's been running on low-fiber processed food for years with 40 grams of fiber overnight, something happens that nobody warns you about. The bacteria adapted to your old diet, the ones that thrived on refined carbohydrates and sugar, can't process the new food fast enough. Fermentation goes into overdrive. Gas accumulates faster than it can move. And instead of feeling the energy and clarity you were promised, you feel like you need to lie down and not move. So you conclude that gut health doesn't work for you, and you go back to exactly what you were eating before. But here's what actually happened. Your gut was changing. You just didn't know how to manage the transition. Your microbiome starts responding to dietary change within 24 hours. By day 3, you're producing more of the anti-inflammatory compounds linked to both gut health and brain protection. By day 5, your gut lining has begun rebuilding itself. Week 1 is a biological window, but most people waste it by doing the right things in the wrong sequence. Today I'm going to show you the exact protocol, day by day, that separates the people who feel different by day 7 from the ones who quit by day 4. Here's what most gut health content gets wrong. It tells you what to eat. It gives you the 30-plant goal, the fiber targets, the fermented foods list. And all of that is correct. But it skips the biology of transition. Your current gut microbiome is adapted to your current diet. The bacteria living in your colon right now are the ones that survived and thrived on whatever you've been eating. If that's been low-fiber, processed food, then the bacteria that dominate your gut are specialists at processing exactly that. When you change too much too fast, those bacteria can't keep up. Fiber ferments faster than they can process it. Gas builds up, you bloat, you get crampy and uncomfortable. And instead of feeling better, you feel worse. Researchers call this transition dysbiosis, a temporary imbalance while the old microbial community struggles to adapt and the new beneficial bacteria haven't yet taken hold. It's not a failure of the diet. It's a failure of the transition. The people who succeed don't eat perfectly in week 1. They eat strategically. They give their gut time to adapt. And by day 7, they feel the difference. More energy, clearer thinking, less bloating. And crucially, they want to keep going. That's the goal of this video. Later in this video, I'll show you one thing you can do with food you're already cooking that turns it into direct fuel for the bacteria we're talking about. It takes 30 seconds, and it costs nothing extra. Before we get into the day-by-day protocol, let me show you exactly where most people go wrong. Mistake 1. Fiber shock. Here's what fiber shock actually feels like. You're not just bloated, you're constipated, which makes no sense because fiber is supposed to fix constipation. That paradox is real, and it has a biological explanation. Most people eat somewhere between 10 and 15 grams of fiber a day. The recommended amount is 25 to 38. So when someone overhauls their diet immediately, they often go from 12 grams to 35 grams in 48 hours. The bacteria adapted to your old diet don't yet have the machinery to process that much fiber. So it sits and ferments at a rate they can't regulate. Hydrogen and methane gas build up. You bloat, you cramp, and you might get the very constipation you were trying to fix. The fix isn't eating less fiber long term. It's adding roughly 5 grams every 3 days. In week 1, you're only adding 10 to 15 grams above your baseline. By week 4, you're at optimal levels, and your microbiome has had time to recruit the species that process fiber efficiently. Zero discomfort. Mistake 2. Doing everything at once. This one is psychological as much as it's biological. Someone gets motivated, genuinely motivated, and on Monday morning they quit coffee, eliminate processed food, track plants, add fermented foods, and start intermittent fasting. Simultaneously, by Thursday, their cortisol is elevated from the accumulated stress of restriction. Their gut is inflamed from the transition, and their brain is exhausted from decision fatigue. They're not failing because of weakness. They're failing because they triggered a stress response that directly worsens gut barrier function. Week 1 has one job: build habits that survive your worst day. Not your best day, your worst. The ones that hold when you're tired, overwhelmed, and your fridge is empty. Those are the habits that actually change your biology over months. Mistake 3. Treating the protocol like a law. Your microbiome is genuinely unique, shaped by birth, antibiotic history, diet over decades, stress, environment. No two people have the same microbial fingerprint, which means the rate at which your gut adapts is individual. The timeline I'm about to give you is a framework. If lentils on day 3 cause significant pain, not mild gas but real pain, you don't power through. You reduce the amount and try again later. The people who succeed long-term treat their body's signals as information, not inconvenience. Day 1. And here's what makes this different from every other gut plan you've seen. On day 1, you change nothing. I mean that seriously. Don't add plants yet. Don't cut anything out. Don't start meal prepping. Day 1 is about awareness. Awareness is the intervention. You cannot change a system you haven't measured. Every study on lasting dietary change shows that people who establish a baseline are significantly more likely to still be on the protocol at week 4. The first step is building that foundation. If you only take one thing from this video, let it be this. In the morning, before you change anything, take a photo of what you eat for breakfast, exactly what you'd normally have. That's your baseline. At midday, do a quick count. How many different plant foods did you eat yesterday? Not servings, different unique plants. If you had spinach twice, that's one plant. Most people are genuinely shocked by this exercise. People who consider themselves healthiers often land at 4 or 5 plants, sometimes fewer. That number isn't a judgment. It's a starting point. In the evening, write down your current symptoms. Be specific. Bloating after meals? Energy crashes at 3 p.m.? Difficulty focusing in the morning? Brain fog? Poor sleep? Irregular digestion? By day 7, you'll compare back to it. That's it for day 1. One photo, one count, one symptom check. You've done something most people never do. You've actually looked at where you're starting. Now we start adding. And notice, we're adding, not restricting. We're not taking anything away. The goal for days 2 and 3 is 5 new plant foods, not 30, not even 15. 5. Here's the simplest way to do it. Add 1 plant to each meal and make 2 snacks plant-based. Let me walk you through an example. Breakfast. Add a handful of berries to whatever you already eat. That's 1 plant. Lunch. Add a handful of spinach to your sandwich, wrap, or bowl. That's 2 plants. Afternoon snack. A small handful of mixed nuts. Depending on the mix, that could count as 3, 4, or 5 plants. Dinner. Add mushrooms to whatever you're already making. Stir them into a sauce. Add them to a stir-fry. Roast them alongside your main. Evening. Herbal tea. Chamomile, peppermint, ginger. Yes, tea counts. It contains polyphenols that feed beneficial gut bacteria. You just went from 4 plants to 9 or 10, without changing a single meal dramatically. Your gut isn't shocked. Your routine isn't disrupted, and you're already feeding a broader diversity of bacteria. Now, a word about why diversity matters so much. Different bacterial species specialize in breaking down different types of fiber and different plant compounds. More plant diversity means more bacterial diversity, and more bacterial diversity is associated with lower inflammation, stronger gut barrier function, and better immune regulation. This isn't about any single superfood. It's about the range. This is where people either stay on track or lose confidence. Days 4 and 5. Because some symptoms will appear, and you need to know which ones are normal and which ones are warning signs. Normal responses. Keep going. Mild increase in gas, especially in the afternoon or evening. That's your bacteria fermenting new food sources. It's actually a sign things are working. Mild bloating after certain meals. Digestive adaptation takes time. More frequent or larger bowel movements. This is the fiber at work. For most people, it's a positive sign. Warning signs: pause and stabilize. Painful bloating that doesn't resolve within a few hours. Explosive diarrhea or severe constipation. Skin reactions: rashes, unusual breakouts. These mean you move too fast. The right response is to pause new additions, maintain what you've already incorporated, and let your system stabilize for 3 to 4 days before continuing. This isn't failure, it's information. Your gut is telling you its pace. For days 4 and 5, add 3 more plants using the same addition strategy. Track your symptoms honestly. By the end of day 5, you should have around 12 different plant foods incorporated without significant discomfort. Here's what's actually happening inside your gut right now, around days 3 to 5, and why it matters far beyond digestion. Inside your colon, the fiber you've been adding this week reaches bacteria that have been waiting for exactly this. Not metaphorically, literally. Certain bacterial species, Faecalibacterium prausnitzii, Roseburia intestinalis, Akkermansia muciniphila, are specialist fermenters. They've evolved enzymatic machinery to dismantle complex plant fibers. And when they do, they don't just break them down. They transform them into something entirely new. Short-chain fatty acids. The 3 main ones are acetate, propionate, and butyrate. And they are not simply digestive byproducts. They're molecular signals with effects that reach every corner of your biology. Acetate is produced in the largest quantities. It circulates systemically, crosses the blood-brain barrier, and can be used as an energy substrate by brain cells. It's also a precursor. Some gut bacteria convert acetate into butyrate. Butyrate is the most studied. The cells lining your colon, your gut barrier, use butyrate as their primary fuel source, not glucose. Butyrate. When butyrate is abundant, those cells regenerate efficiently and produce more of the tight junction proteins that keep the barrier sealed. Your gut barrier is only 1 cell layer thick, a single sheet of cells between your bloodstream and the 38 trillion microbes in your intestine. Butyrate is what helps keep that barrier intact. Propionate travels further. It enters your bloodstream, reaches your liver, and helps regulate cholesterol synthesis and glucose metabolism. And what's particularly relevant is what was published in June 2025. Propionate reduced inflammatory immune signaling in the brain in an Alzheimer's mouse model. It appears to work by dialing down the reactivity of microglial cells, the brain's resident immune cells, which, when chronically activated, contribute to neurodegeneration. Think about what that means. The bacteria you're feeding with berries in your oatmeal and lentils at dinner are producing molecules your brain can actually use. And the bacteria that make all 3 don't need expensive supplements. They don't need complicated protocols. They need fiber. Here's something you can do this week that costs nothing and takes about 30 seconds. Cook rice, potatoes, or pasta, whatever you'd normally have, then refrigerate it overnight before eating. When starchy foods cool slowly, their structure rearranges, forming resistant starch. It behaves like fiber. It bypasses your small intestine intact and arrives directly in your colon, feeding the exact bacteria we just talked about. You can reheat it. The structure holds. Same rice, same potato, 1 overnight chill, and you've turned a simple carbohydrate into direct fuel for compounds linked to gut barrier repair and reduced brain inflammation. That's the hack. It's not complicated. It's just chemistry working in your favor. Days 6 and 7 are where momentum either builds or collapses. Not because of what you eat, because of how you interpret what's happened so far. This is a reflection period. There are 4 questions to ask yourself. Your energy levels: better, the same, or worse than your baseline. Your digestion: easier, harder, or unchanged. Your sleep: improved, worse, or the same. And your cravings for junk food: less intense, unchanged, or stronger. Let's go through each one honestly. Energy worse, digestion harder. You likely moved slightly too fast. Pull back to your day 3 level for another week before progressing. Pause new additions for 3 to 4 days. Maintain what you've incorporated, then resume. This is the most common signal that fiber increase outpaced bacterial adaptation. Your microbiome has its own timeline. There's no shame in giving it more time. Sleep worse. This one surprises people, but it's real. In the first week, some people experience temporarily disrupted sleep as the microbiome shifts. Your gut produces around 90% of your body's serotonin, and serotonin is a precursor to melatonin. When the community reorganizes rapidly, serotonin production can fluctuate. If sleep has genuinely worsened, slow the pace slightly. Give your system another week to stabilize before adding more plants. It typically resolves by week 2. Cravings stronger, also normal in days 3 to 5 specifically. This can be the old microbial community signaling for the food it runs on. If cravings are still stronger by day 6, it usually means you haven't added enough diversity yet to start crowding out sugar-dependent species. Add 1 or 2 more plant varieties and give it a few days. The cravings don't disappear overnight. They fade as the bacterial balance shifts. If all 4 markers are stable or improving, you're ready for week 2. At the end of day 7, do a new plant count. You should be at 12 to 15 different plants, not 30. That's exactly where you should be at this stage. You're not behind. You're building the foundation correctly. Week 2 shifts strategy. In week 1, you were building tolerance. In week 2, you're building diversity. The goal is 10 more plants, bringing you to 22 to 25 by the end of week 2. But the method changes slightly. Instead of just adding to existing meals, you begin introducing new categories. If you haven't had legumes yet, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, week 2 is when you start. Begin small. A few tablespoons stirred into soup or rice. Legumes are dense in fiber and resistant starch, which means they feed bacteria across your entire colon, not just one section. Consider adding a fermented food this week. Yogurt with live cultures, kefir, sauerkraut from the refrigerated section, even kombucha if you enjoy it. These aren't just more plant foods, they introduce live bacteria, reinforcements for your gut community. By week 3, you're reaching 30 plants. By week 4, it's automatic. It's no longer a strategy you're executing, it's just how you eat. Take a step back for a moment. In our last video, we talked about how gut changes can appear before memory loss, how the microbiome shifts early in the Alzheimer's process, sometimes years before cognitive symptoms show up. Beneficial bacteria decline while people still feel completely normal. That finding just got significantly more detailed. In January 2026, a scoping review published in Alzheimer's and Dementia synthesized 58 human studies led by researchers at George Washington University. Not mouse models, human studies. And what they found was consistent across the research. People with mild cognitive impairment already show clear signs of gut dysbiosis, reduced microbial diversity, increased populations of pro-inflammatory bacteria, and measurable drops in protective species, including Faecalibacterium prausnitzii and Roseburia intestinalis. Those names should sound familiar. They're the same specialist fermenters we talked about earlier, the ones that produce butyrate and propionate, the compounds that fuel your gut barrier and reduce inflammatory signaling in the brain. In people with early cognitive impairment, those populations are already declining, while people are still working, still driving, still feeling largely fine. The gut is already shifting, years before the brain shows anything measurable. That's not a metaphor. That's what 58 human studies now consistently show. Which brings us back to this week. Every plant you added, every resistant starch you let cool overnight, every time you chose diversity over convenience, you were feeding those exact species, Faecalibacterium, Roseburia. You're not just improving your digestion this week. You're supporting bacterial populations that 2026 human research links to the earliest stages of cognitive decline, the stage when intervention has the most room to matter. One meal at a time. Let's put the whole week in one clear view. Day 1. Take your baseline photo, count your plants, log your symptoms, change nothing. Days 2 and 3. Add 5 new plants, 1 per meal, 2 plant-based snacks. Track how you feel. Days 4 and 5. Read your body's signals. If you're getting normal responses, mild gas, mild bloating, keep going and add 3 more plants. If you're seeing warning signs, painful bloating, severe constipation, or skin reactions, pause new additions. Hold your current level for 3 to 4 days, then resume. Days 6 and 7. Reflect on your 4 markers: energy, digestion, sleep, cravings. If things are stable or improving, you should land at 12 to 15 plants by the end of the week. Bonus: try the resistant starch hack at least once. Cook rice or potatoes, refrigerate overnight, eat the next day. That's your week. Your gut microbiome begins responding within 24 hours of changing what you feed it. By day 3, you're producing more beneficial compounds than you were a week ago. The research is clear. The strategy is simple. The only question is whether you start. I created a free Week 1 tracker. The link is in the description. It includes your Day 1 baseline, a structured plant checklist with beginner-friendly options marked, a fermented food log, and a Day 7 reflection that shows you, in numbers, how your energy, digestion, sleep, and cravings have shifted. Tell me in the comments, what's your plant count right now? Count yesterday honestly. Most people are surprised. If this helped you, subscribe for more evidence-based content from The Natural Fix. And if you missed our video on the gut-brain connection and Alzheimer's disease, I'll link it here, because understanding why this matters makes consistency much easier. I'll see you in the next one.